Well, hello. Hello, my fellow sensitive people. It is I, your favorite whimsical oracle, here to give you the lowdown on the news 3 weeks early, because that's how I roll. Before we get started, it would be awesome if you could like, share, subscribe to help build this channel. I'm pushing close to 100K. I think it's going to happen this year. It's taken a while, but I got a good feeling about this year. Oh my God. Folks, we need to talk. I was thinking that the way I was going to open up today's show was by saying, I'm melting. I'm melting. I'm melting. I'm melting. Oh, what a world. What a world. What a world. What a world. I love my job. It's an unusual job being a whimsical oracle, but I love it. Even on difficult days, I love it. Now, I have gone into the energy. I have done the remotes. I have done the meditations. And gosh darn it looks pretty darn crazy. One of the things we saw that the stock market would crash. Yes, my fellow sensitive people, alas, the stock market continues to crash, starting with February 9th. Unfortunately, we see the stock market will continue to crash. And this is because when we follow the energy of the stock market, we feel that it continues to drop. This is something my students may want to try, is that you find the energy of the stock market, put yourself in its shoes, and let yourself be carried by the stock market. And what you will see when you follow that energy is that it continues to drop, probably up until April. And because we're looking at 8.53 over the month, if it gets down to a 10%, which I assume it will, then at that point we're talking about, when you have loss of 10%, that's a crash. Sometimes you can have loss in one day. You can have something dramatic where you'll lose 10% in one day. In this particular case, it's happening a little bit slower. It's happening over, a month, starting February 19th. When the crash started, we're now on the 12th. And the crash, as you can see, we're down almost 4,000 points. Great time, many people feel, to be buying those index funds when this stabilizes, which I imagine it will sometime around early April. I can go back in and check dates for you. I know some of you do look at the stock market, and for that reason, I do try and check it out for you folks. Of course, this is strictly for entertainment purposes only, and I make mistakes like every reader, but I'm pretty confident that this is going to dip to 39, 38 possibly, and there it goes, dropping again. 48.53. I'm predicting it could drop as low as 38,000. Okay, so moving on to the rest of the news. It's been interesting to see what's going on with Vladimir Zelensky, the amazing Vladimir Zelensky. He has said, sure, let's go ahead and let's get a ceasefire, and you guys can go ahead and withdraw, and we'll sing Kumbaya and all of that good stuff. But alas, it does not look like the president, Putin, is particularly interested in doing that. And I think the reason why is because he wants the resources out of Ukraine, right? So he wants those resources out of Ukraine. And if there's a ceasefire and then it gets arranged for him to have to pull back, then he may not be getting as much as he had hoped for. The minerals, the oil, everything else that is beautifully available to him. Of course, the argument by Putin is that they have a right to Ukraine because they built Ukraine. They built the port in Odessa, many of the churches, etc. And so we have this kind of energy happening where Zelensky is saying, great, let's go ahead and we'll get to that ceasefire and everybody will be fine. And of course, Putin doesn't like that because the conditions of the ceasefire may be that he loses some of his positions in Ukraine. And it's interesting when you go into this as a remote viewer because the card that kept coming up for this time of year, March, is the Knight of Cups. And the Knight of Cups, for those people who don't know, is the Pisces knight, and he is seen walking across the waters. And that's a lovely imagery that I really enjoy of the Knight of Cups. And that's because in March, where we're at right now, we start to see things warming up. And those beautiful ice sheets, the ice and the snow in the mountains begins to melt, forming these beautiful streams. And the Pisces, the water baby, is there as a dignitary, as a diplomat coming to bring peace. And so this was the reason why when we saw this imagery, we felt like there was a very good likelihood that we were going to get to ceasefire in March. But to be honest with you, when you go into the energy of Zelensky, you get the King of Wands. By the way, his popularity only increased after Trump made those statements. And when we think about the Knight of Wands or the King of Wands, we think about war. He on guard, right? Charge. So the Knight of Wands charges forward. And we always see Zelensky in that strong Aries mode of he is at war. He is the King of Wands for that reason. Of course, we always think of Ukraine as the Queen of Wands. That is the card that I use to depict Ukraine because she, of course, carries the sunflower. It is the symbol for Ukraine. High Priestess is the card that I use for Israel. She holds the Torah. It's interesting to go into the energy of trying to get to peace when you switch over to looking now at the Middle East. The last thing I would say before we go into the Middle East, and then we can throw some cards as well. But the last thing that I would say about Ukraine is that if they don't isolate Putin, he continues to make the area unstable. And for that reason, I think I've always felt like it's very likely we could see NATO troops in Moscow. And in fact, we are seeing that Moscow has been heavily hit by Ukrainian drones. And they are now talking about switching from Starlink to a French version or another version in order to help the Ukrainians. So again, that's good news for Ukraine. I just don't think Europe can afford to lose this war to Putin. And I also would caution the Arab League and the Arab Accords, who have tried to remain neutral on this subject. Now they've met with Zelensky. I would strongly encourage them. And what I have publicly said, if MBS by any chance watches the Oracle of Whimsy, what I've publicly said to Saudi Arabia is that no good can come from doing business with Putin because of how he backstabs. And the way he does business is so unethical and psychotic. And so it would be better for the Abraham Accords to try and develop a relationship with Zelensky and work towards a change in leadership in Russia, because Russia right now is not capable of being a loyal partner to anybody. The same is true for Iran. When we take our energy over and we go into the energy of United States, Israel, and Iran, the same thing. Iran is not a country that we can do business with because of October 7th, the massacres that happened, the fact that they have been attempting to basically dismantle the West. So they're not realistic partners. They can't be a part of the Abraham Accords, not until there's a change in leadership. And so that's something else that we have talked about. Okay, we're going to go ahead. We're going to do the empath prayer, and then we'll just do a quick reading to see if we can find out any more information about what's going to be coming up in the next couple of days. Thank you, everyone who has decided to subscribe to the channel. Much gratitude for members as well. Let's do this thing. Okay. Okay. I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together, collectively, as a community, we say, Amen. Let's go in. What is coming up in the coming days? Will we get to cease fire in Ukraine? Will we get to cease fire in Gaza? What's going on with the Trump administration? It looks like Elon and Trump are melting. Oh, what a world, what a world, what a world. That can't be fun. Right? Well, the feeling is that both Marco Rubio and Elon Musk both will probably have to leave, just like Spicer and Bannon both got themselves fired. If they're going to be bickering. The feeling you got when you went into Marco Rubio was that he was someone you couldn't BS. It is true that Marco Rubio is a lawyer. I looked it up. I got the feeling when I put myself in Marco Rubio's shoes that I felt like Elon Musk was a bull-faced liar. My constituents, people were concerned about the firings, particularly at the VA. And what I wanted as Marco Rubio is I wanted transparency, because what Elon Musk was saying and what I was seeing and hearing were totally different. And so I found myself as Marco Rubio, like an attorney, wanting to question him, wanting to see contracts, wanting to see data, wanting to see evidence. And so basically what Marco Rubio was doing in that remote was he was calling Elon Musk a liar. Now, in previous remotes, I've also told you that Elon Musk is melting. What a world, what a world. Look, there's no good thing that can come from a drug addiction. Everybody thinks they're going to find the perfect drug. It's going to be ketamine. Now he doesn't have to feel guilty or bad about the horrible relationship he has with his family, for example, or the horrible things that he has done in order to get ahead. He doesn't have to have a conscience because he has numbed his conscience with all these drugs. And he thinks, Eureka, I found the solution. I don't have to lie in bed at night thinking about all the people I love and care about that want nothing to do with me because I'm so toxic, right? I'll just numb it out with drugs. But the problem is reality is still reality. And the reality is that Elon Musk is continuing to do horrible, horrible, terrible things, which is precisely why the people that love and care about him eventually have to get away from him, right? So we have Elon Musk melting. In the previous remotes, we've talked about the fact that he could go bankrupt. And in fact, that is what's happening. Not only is Tesla bankrupted, it's on the verge if it isn't already. And now they're pulling out of Starlink. We're talking about Alberta, Canada, not wanting to do business with Starlink. So that's a serious chunk of change. Also, he can't get money out of his businesses. So he has no money because he can't give himself. He tried to pull $50 billion out. The Delaware court said no. He can't get access to the money. Where we are at right now is that the Constitution holds. This is absolute bullcrap. That's what Marco Rubio is saying. Marco Rubio is presenting here as extremely ethical regarding this issue. This is not to say I don't have other ethical issues with him, but in this remote, he's going to do everything in his power to make sure that vulnerable people get their resources back, whether it's the VA or some widow whose husband died. He will find out about it, and he's going to do what he can to make sure they get their stuff back. These are not the people we were supposed to be. Boy, he's going after Elon. You can see here the Constitution holds. Hierophant is the Constitution because it's the higher ethos of the government. And then the karma card is Six of Pentacles, which is to start rolling out those programs again. It's to give to the needy. We, the American people, pay taxes so that in vulnerable situations we can be taken care of. So it's not rational to be cutting the very programs that we created to assist ourselves if we are vulnerable, which is precisely what we wanted as taxpayers. We don't want handouts to your friends for contracts to do business that we don't need. So they will be returned. Now, there was a case today where a judge ordered Dodgy to rehire people at the VA. And in fact, that's what the cards are suggesting the Constitution holds and the entitlements stay. Find another way. Do Shark Tank. Start investing in and doing business with small businesses and putting the profits towards debt reduction. You know, if you're really a libertarian, that's what you should be doing, is investing in partnerships. That way you'd have bipartisan support and you'd actually be creating new wealth. Oh, gee, when did that happen? It happened after World War II. Right? You had McDonald's, you had these companies coming in because all these Americans were coming back, right? So you had the GI Bill, you had people going back and getting educations, all these men who came back from the war. But you also had all these small businesses that came when the men returned back from the war. And as a result of that, you saw the wealth of the 50s and 60s. And that is precisely the way we will get out of this. Just as we got out of it during the Great Depression after the war through funding small businesses, it is the way out again. Innovation, but not by cutting the widow's check for groceries. This is not the way. All right, where we are at right now, we are tied in too much red tape. One area where liberals and conservatives agree is that the laws are too restrictive, particularly for small businesses, for vulnerable people, and we have created too many laws. And so let's start where we can all agree, whether it's Doge or it's Marco Rubio or Clinton or, whatever. We've all come to, okay, let's start where we all agree. The laws are too restrictive. We can't even build greenhouses in California. People are sleeping in pup tents, and then they're told they can't sleep in pup tents, right? This has gotten ridiculous, folks. So Eight of Swords means that we have got ourselves here by too many restrictive laws, not laws that we should have. But when the laws are so restrictive that we literally can't get anything done. The new green economy remains the future of the world. If we care for Gaia, if we create businesses that nurture the planet, the wealth that will come back to you will be explosive. It's not a complicated mathematical equation. The more we love the earth, the more she loves us back. The more we destroy the earth, the more we destroy ourselves. Once you figure this out, be aligned with the universe, seeking heaven on earth, your business and those you touch will be blessed. And then they will in turn tell other people, because the nature of human beings, when they're given the choice, life or death, they will choose life. But the future is the new green economy. You want to get out of it? We've got to put away with restrictions that are inhibiting things like building in California. It's gotten to be ridiculous. Even putting up solar has become a problem. So and you've got that new green. The other great thing is that I keep seeing is that when we enter into a new green economy, a lot of the restrictions end because we're no longer toxic. So if If the company you run produces no toxic, there's no toxic output, then the restrictions don't need to be there. Like the solution to the restrictions is the new green economy. What is above us? A great celebration. I see armistice. Peace is coming to the land and to the world. So the world wants peace, and the world, it's the armistice card, or what Linda G calls dancing in the street, because on Armistice Day people dance in the streets. But Three of Cups is like a big celebration, like an armistice or something like that. And we're talking about the fourth month, possibly around April. That's because I read wands as months, as do many readers. And then the past placement, we didn't see a lot of activity the last couple of days, a lot of arguing back and forth. The United States, for example, was trying to negotiate with Hamas. It didn't work well. Lots of stress still happening in the country, mainly because people don't know what's happening. They don't know. They're terrified. I'm going to go ahead and predict that the stock market could dip to 38K or 39K by April. Could even do worse. But we knew that this was coming. We knew that the correction was coming. And, when it hits 38K, then you can buy back your, I'm just going to buy back everything when it hits about 38K. I sold some of my stock, and then I'll buy back, after it flattens, which it will probably. Or I'm getting April 7th. If people, you want to go ahead and write it down, April 7th. Let's go ahead and take a look at the map. Spirit just told me April 7th. Oh, that would be Monday, April 7th. We start to see a change in the stock market. So we'll be able to come up from the stock market April 7th. I think it's going to we'll start constructing back up. So don't worry about your finances. If you're worried that it's dipping, this is why I told people that's why I sold. I didn't sell everything. I rebought some stuff, but the point is that, which was a mistake. I should have listened to my gut instinct. I didn't listen to myself and I lost money. And this happens all the time. Six of Cups, returning back to old loves. Everybody's getting back to the things they love. They're creating heaven on earth, the beauty of the world. The opposition is boundaries. The emperor is all about boundaries, or in Hebrew, we call it din. Right? Din is law and order. The hope and the fear that people will be foolish. And this month, the Queen of Wands, the star of the show is Ukraine. Ukraine will be the star of the show this month. The Queen of Wands, of course, is Ukraine. We can go ahead and predict great dignity will come to Ukraine this week. Great dignity will come to Ukraine this week. That basically tells me that she's going to make advances. She's going to be strong. She's going to fight back. She's going to conduct herself appropriately. She rises in the coming weeks. I just don't see things working out for Putin, even with an agreement of a ceasefire. I feel his days are numbered, and I think it's because nobody can do business with him. The same is true for Trump. He's quickly losing support. His popularity is tanking. He's now down to something like 43%. He was never a particularly popular president, but this is the worst sinking probably since we've been doing data collection on presidents. And as I have said before, and I'll say it again, it simply is not sustainable. All right. I want to thank you all for hanging out with me for this fun little tarot reading. If you're trying to get in for a reading with me, you can check the information below by booking through Booksy. Be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. God bless. Peace out. We'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much.